This is from a short story, The Chamber at the End of Memory, part of the Scions of the Emperor anthology. The release date was 12th of February 2019. The context here is that Dorn was fortifying the Imperial Palace when one of his survey crews dug a little too deep and triggered some super powerful psyker wards that were put in place by Malcador to protect the tombs of the lost Primarchs. Dorn tries to reminisce about those lost brothers and found, much to his shock, that he can't. Malcador pops up and chastises Dorn for digging around in places he wasn't supposed to. Since Malcador previously warned that despite the oncoming siege, some areas are still off limits. They subsequently chat about the circumstances of the Edict of Obliteration. I knew them. Dorn took another step towards the doors, silently reaching for deep memories of the two brothers. Not all Primarchs can say they breathed the same air as the Lost Sons, but Dorn was one of the few. He had been with them, if only for a while.
Have you ever wondered why none speak of them?
The Sigillite replied.
Of course. There is censure over all who knew of the lost never to talk openly of their existence. Still, in the absence of fact, all men will speculate. But you do not. The Primarchs never speak of their lost kinsmen in anything but the vaguest of terms. Have you ever wondered why that is?
As you said, we are forbidden to do so.
Even when you were beyond your father's sight, even when no one would be aware of such discussion, ask yourself why your thoughts always slip over recall of the lost and pass by.
Malcador bowed his head.
What are they called, Rugal?
The Sigillite seemed almost sorrowful as he asked them.
Your vanished brethren. Tell me their names and their titles.
Dorn tried to grasp that vague recollection, tried to frame the questions that gnawed at him, but once more his perfect eidetic recall failed him. He could only see the phantoms of those moments. Holding on to them was like trying to capture smoke between his fingers.
Their names were...
His mighty voice faltered, his brow creased in frustration.
They were...
To his horror, Dorn realized that he did not know. The awareness was there. He could almost see the shape of the knowledge out on the far horizon of his thoughts, but it retreated from his every effort to see it clearly. Each time he attempted to frame the memory of the lost was like fighting a tidal wave. Everything else is clear, but they are ghosts in my mind. The Imperial Fist was experiencing an impossibility. Every known instant of his life was open to him, as if they were pages from a great book. But not those moments. Something has been done to me. The beginnings of a new fury built in his chest, boiling at the realization of such an affront. You are behind this! Dorn whirled, drawing his chain blade in a glittering arc of lethal metal, bringing it to aim at Malcador's wizened, cloak-withered form. You shrouded my memories! You invaded my mind! For that I shall cut you down! The Sigillite showed no reaction to the threat.
Not just yours, Gilliman's, and the others who met them.
He let his words bed in.
It is extremely difficult to extract a reminiscence, Malcador went on. Even in an ordinary human, in a brain as complex and perfectly engineered as that of a Primarch, the task becomes Herculean. Imagine a tree in the earth, rising from a web of roots. How would one remove that without disturbing a single atom of the soil? Memory cannot be cut and patched like a mnemonic spool. It exists as a holographic thing in multiple dimensions, but it can be adjusted. My father allowed that? Dorn's sword did not waver. He did not stop you.
Stop me? The Primarch's eyes narrowed.
The loss of the 2nd and the 11th was such a wound upon us, and it threatened the ideals at the heart of the Great Crusade. It would have ruined all that we had built in the drive to reunite humanity and drive off our enemies. Steps had to be taken,
He met Dorn's hard gaze.
Legionaries they left behind, leaderless and forsaken, were too great a resource to be discarded out of hand. They did not share the fate of their fathers. You and Rabute argued in their favor, but you do not recall it.
Malcador nodded to himself.
It fell for me to see that they were attuned to new circumstances. You robbed them of their memories. I granted them a mercy,
Malcador replied, his tone wounded.
A second chance. What mercy is there in a lie?
Dorn thundered.
Ask yourself.
The sigillite aimed the burning head of his staff in the Primarch's direction.
You wish to know the truth, Rogol. It is this. What I shrouded in you was done by your command. You told me to do it. You and Rabute conceived of the scheme and granted me permission.
Dorn's scowl deepened.
I would never countenance such a thing. Untrue!
Malcador slammed the base of his staff into the floor, the crash of metal punctuating the word.
Such was the fate of the lost that you willingly allowed it to make safe that knowledge.
Another denial formed in Dorn's throat, but he held it there. He put aside his anger and looked upon the possibility with detachment, with the cold eye of the Praetorian.
Would I have done such a thing? If the matter were grave enough, would I have been so pragmatic, so bloodless in my command?
Dorn instinctively knew the answer. There was no doubt that he would. If the Imperium was put at risk, he would give his life for it. The cost of some memories, of a fraction of his honor, was indeed a price he would pay. Malcador approached him, leaving his staff where it stood. One bony, long-fingered hand emerged from the voluminous sleeve of his monastic robes, and the sigillite reached up to hold it before Dorn's face. Faint sparks of eldritch light glistened there.
I will show you, said the Psyker. For this instant, I will let you remember. You will know why the lost must remain a mystery.
Dorn closed his eyes, and a glacial fire erupted behind them. Deep within him, a shadow briefly dissipated, stealing the breath from his throat. There was still much the Psyker had done and said which the Imperial Fist did not accept, and although Malcador had professed to have been truthful with him, Dorn had doubts that would never ebb. But not in this matter. In this he was certain. The lost were gone, and it was well that they were. The grand misfortunes that befell them crumbled in Dorn's mind, but they left behind certainty. What came to pass could overshadow everything. Dorn knew that now. The raw, hateful truth is clear to me. If they were here with us now, this war would already have been lost. Hopefully this goes ahead and solidifies some theories regarding the lost Primarchs and their legion. It clearly states that the two of them committed a certain travesty that we still don't know to this day that could have affected the Great Crusade and humanity as a fucking whole. Which begs the question of what the fuck did they do? And we know it was only them. Those two are the only ones, as we hear in this excerpt, that their sons did not suffer the same fate, and that Dorn and Guilliman argued on their behalf. So, honestly, when it comes down to it, what could they have done to put the Great Crusade at risk in order to enact the Edict of Obliteration to wipe their memory from existence, basically? And why the Emperor would put down two of his own Primarchs. I mean, shit, he didn't even put down Conrad Kurz or Angron. Two Primarchs that very much should have been put down on sight. Yet, they weren't. And the Space Marine chapters, as they are today, very much know of the traitor Primarchs. Perturabo, Angron, Kurz, Horus, Fulgrim, all of them. Altharius, Omegon, fucking Mortarion. They know of them. But nobody knows, besides the Emperor and Malkador, what the 2 legions that were lost were and who their Primarchs were. That is really fucking weird to me, honestly. My theory is possibly they were arguing in favor of Xenos. They adopted Xenos technology, they adopted Xenos customs. They could have been trying to push for more xenophilic laws within the Imperium to get rid of like the wars of extermination, the xenocide, stuff like that, because very clearly they were there on Terra. They were there. Their tombs are there. But what? It is still not confirmed, and I hope to this day that it's never confirmed, because it is just an interesting mystery as to what happened to the lost legions and what happened to the lost Primarchs. Really good mystery right there. Really good mystery. If you want the real world lore aspect of this, it's mostly because of the 2 lost legions of Imperial Rome. Rome lost 2 legions. The legions were stricken from the history books. Not good enough, as we know about them. But yeah, that's where the inspiration came from. And apparently back in the older days, it was for homebrew stuff. Oh, you want to make your own legion? You want to make your own Primarch? Go ahead and do it. Now it takes a little bit more of a serious tone, and that's not really accepted anymore. Interesting nonetheless, and a mystery I hope we never get solved, because sometimes having things be a mystery is more interesting than the truth. Also, on a bit of a side note here, I think I might start moving more away from the AI voiced things. A friend of mine kind of brought it up recently that he's absolutely right in this. It is kind of a lazy cop-out, to be honest, of making content for you guys, and that I should be the one reading these excerpts and
giving my best voice impressions. As you can hear, I'm an old man now for some fucking reason. But I tried to make an old man from old Malkador. Didn't do it this hard, though. Sounds like I need to wake up at 6 in the morning, ask Martha for my oxygen, and go grab the early bird special.
But no, for real. I am going to go and start doing more personal readings of books and excerpts. Well, maybe not entire books, of course. I do have a plan on reading the entire Divine Comedy, both the Inferno and Paradiso, which people don't realize there's a second part of that fucking book by Dante Alighieri. You know, Dante's Inferno. It's not just the Inferno, it's also Paradiso, where to go to heaven, all that good stuff, right? But anyways, that's in the works. I already got the first canto down. Jesus Christ, it's fucking hard. But I am trying to do more of reading out loud, because when listening to it and reading it in my head, some information just doesn't stick in this vortex known as my head, where useless information accumulates. And if I start reading things out loud, I notice that things stick with me better. So I'm going to try and do that. Reading fiction books out loud, recording it, of course, working on my pronunciation. Of course, I fucked that all up, but that was on purpose to illustrate a point. And just to work on my voice acting skills, because like I want to have a wider range of what I can do. So yeah, hopefully this video shows that what I'm trying to do, and I hope you guys really like it. Peace.